We are live, we are live, we are live. Oh my gosh, indeed. We are live. Money in the Bank, WWE Money in the Bank has just gone off the air. And, what can you say? Oh my, I am, even though you knew it was all coming, even though we knew the outcome of that main event, even though it had been rumored that John Cena would be returning tonight at Money in the Bank, it doesn't change how amazing and unbelievable that was. Insane, absolutely incredible. What a moment. I mean, John Cena is truly... He's the last great megastar, isn't he? He's the last great megastar of WWE. Imagine just being... That's the cure for what we've been waiting for, you know, from what we've been going through for all of these months in terms of being a pro wrestling fan. If you're a pro wrestling fan, you will watch that moment at the end of Money in the Bank tonight and you will look at it and say, that is just incredible. What a moment. John Cena is back for the first time since WrestleMania 36 in April of 2020. For the first time inside of a WWE ring with a crowd since what? Are we talking like February 2020? He confronted Roman Reigns, said, you can't see me, setting up their inevitable match at SummerSlam. And like I said, we knew that was coming. You know, people knew it was coming, but it doesn't change the crowd reaction of John Cena being inside a ring with Roman Reigns. It doesn't change the reaction of being like, oh my God, this feels like a big deal. This feels like a big moment. This is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it must be said, because we are going to go through the entirety of the show here in this reaction stream, it will be said that what a show. And to be honest with you as well, I think it's important to state, obviously, the crowd was amazing tonight in Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. That crowd tonight was phenomenal. Absolutely spectacular. But what must be said as well, it must be said that even if you didn't have the crowd there, that would have been a great show. A really, truly great show. But with the crowd there, it just took it over the top. I mean, it's the first pay-per-view event that WWE has done with a live crowd, obviously since WrestleMania, but a full capacity arena crowd since March of last year, and it's the best WWE pay-per-view in a really long time. And that's not just because of the ending, that's not just because of the main event. There were other matches on this show that really were very, very good as well. And we're going to go through them all. But if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button as well. You can contribute to the channel as well by clicking the $ if you want to contribute a super chat to support the channel. Oh, what a show. We haven't even started the stream yet. And already, this is absolute craziness. What an exciting time to be a fan of pro wrestling with all the stuff that's going on. John Cena's back. SummerSlam's on the horizon. Whew. What an event. Right, let's get into the first match. Let's talk about the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, because we do have new SmackDown Tag Team Champions, that being the Usos. Now, it must be said here, and I do have some things to say about this one. The match itself between the Usos and the Mysterios I thought was very good. And you know, in these reaction streams that we do talking about pay-per-views, I always like to stress this. These aren't really, you know, reviews. I don't give them stars. I don't rate them out of 5 and all this kind of stuff. I kind of react to, you know, you just sort of react to the outcome, react to the storyline going forward. What did you make of the match? All that kind of stuff. That's what we're reacting to here. So the first match on the kickoff show, this wasn't even on the main card, was the Usos defeating the Mysterios for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Now, it must be said, as you would expect here, even with a limited crowd as they were filing in, the match between the Usos and the Mysterios was very good. Very, very good. It was excellent, in fact. There was a spot in the match where Jey Uso hits the Uso splash on Rey Mysterio, and you're thinking, right, game over, they're going to get a victory here, and it kicks out. It was an excellent near fall spot, a really excellent near fall spot, and you start to think to yourself, well, maybe the Mysterios might win here, but they didn't. In the end, the Usos get the victory. A bit of shenanigans with Jimmy Uso. Basically, there was a roll-up, and Jimmy Uso used his feet to give Jey some leverage. Anyway, the Usos are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I think 7-time WWE Tag Team Champions now at this point. Look, I kind of feel bad being negative actually at this point because of the finish that we just saw in the Roman Reigns match with John Cena returning. I'm still kind of buzzing from that, to be honest with you. But look, let's be honest. Let's be down to earth. Let's be realistic about this. when it comes to the Jimmy Uso situation here for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships is that Jimmy Uso was arrested for a DUI 2 weeks ago. It's the 4th or 5th arrest that he has had in the last few years because of having a DUI arrest. WWE didn't say anything about it. They usually sometimes come out and they'll usually release a statement and they'll say, so-and-so is responsible for their own actions. Sometimes they'll suspend a talent. Sometimes they'll send them to rehab. Sometimes they'll do this. Sometimes they'll do that. With the Jimmy Uso situation, they've done nothing. Absolutely nothing. They have gone full ostrich, bury your head in the sand. We're not going to talk about it. Didn't acknowledge it on SmackDown for the last few weeks. Didn't even mention it. And what do? After Jimmy Uso gets a DUI? Of course. Let's make him a champion. Here you go. Have a championship. Because they like to reward bad behavior. And again, I don't want to be a downer on the whole situation here because we had an excellent show and the match itself was very, very good. But what kind of message does that send out? And I mentioned this before. Jimmy Uso has got 4 or 5 DUIs. I think it's 4. 4 DUIs. Are we really supposed to believe that those are the only 4 occasions that Jimmy Uso has driven under the influence? The only 4 times he did it were the 4 times he got caught. I don't think so. In reality, it shows a pattern of bad behavior. And what has WWE done because of this pattern of bad behavior? Now, he might have been fined. He might have been told, look, this is the final warning or whatever. But at the end of the day, this guy got arrested for a DUI and they made him the SmackDown Tag Team Champion tonight. To me, that's unacceptable. We've heard the rumors that WWE basically have realized that, look, the Reigns and Uso storyline is so important at the moment, we can't afford to take him off of television. We can't afford because we want to have Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania next year. And maybe because of The Rock's movie schedule, that might be a tag team match. That might be The Rock and Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso. And because of that, we need to keep him on television. We need to keep him strong. Okay, if you've backed yourself into a corner and you're that spineless and you think that that's the thing you've got to do, okay, you didn't have to make him tag team champions. Because guess what? Tag team wrestling in WWE doesn't mean anything because of the way WWE books tag team wrestling. So I thought it was a bad call. You know, the match itself was very, very good. I enjoyed the match, obviously. But it has to be said, I think that Jimmy Uso becoming the SmackDown Tag Team Champion, frankly, is ludicrous. I think it's a bad decision. I think it sends completely the wrong message. And, you know, at the end of the day, again, WWE is a publicly traded PG company. And they're willing just to, I'll overlook it. What DUI? I don't know what you're talking about. Black Dino says, what a night, 2 matches booked. Darth Thor says, not really interested in Cena versus Roman. They did this a couple of years ago, and it did not work to pass the torch to a face Roman. So now they'll try it again with a heel Roman. Well, I slightly disagree with you. I think it worked fine. I think everyone a couple of years ago when they did the Cena versus Reigns match, the argument at the time was, why didn't they do this at the WrestleMania? It's a WrestleMania match. This year, WrestleMania just happens to be in August, and it's called SummerSlam because obviously they got a stadium show that they can actually sell out. So that's interesting. Now let's move to the opening match of the show, which was the Money in the Bank. Immortal Clan has literally just put a message in the chat. You can also put your thoughts of tonight's Money in the Bank show in the chat as well. Be sure to subscribe to bottom right hand corner. Smash a like if you're still reeling from that John Cena return at the end of the show. Immortal Clan says, what did you think about Nikki winning? Some people are obsessing over Liv Morgan. So yes, the opening match of the show was the Money in the Bank ladder match, and it was won, surprisingly, by Nikki A.S.H. Are they calling her Nikki A.S.H. or Nikki A.S.H? They're not calling her Nikki Cross. I think that we'll go with Nikki A.S.H. Surprisingly winning the match. I mentioned in the preview and predictions, I did say this at the time, that she was a possibility. I said at the time she was a possibility because Vince McMahon and those within WWE are on board with this character. I am very divided about this. Personally, obviously, I think with like a lot of people, I thought Liv Morgan was the right choice. I thought that was the story that they were, I think that was the story that they were trying to tell. Was Liv Morgan on SmackDown television, working her way into the match. She had the crowd behind her on SmackDown. She had the crowd behind her tonight. It was a babyface situation, and I think people thought that that was going to be the situation. What I will say about the Nikki A.S.H. winning the match, if you had told me about a month ago or 6 weeks ago that Nikki Cross was going to win the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match and therefore was going to get an opportunity at a Women's Championship, a Women's World Championship, I'd have said, great. I'm a Nikki Cross fan. I think everyone is a Nikki Cross fan. I think everyone enjoys her work. I think everyone enjoys her, previously, her gimmick work that she had done in WWE and NXT. I think a lot of people like Nikki Cross, and I think a lot of people want to see her featured more on the show and wanted to see her succeed. My issue with Nikki Cross winning is that I think the gimmick that she is working right now, I think it sucks. And I think it's stupid. And I think that it's ridiculous. I don't think you can be taken seriously. At the end of the day, when it comes to all of this, is that inside the briefcase is essentially a world championship opportunity. Can you see Nikki Cross dressed up as a superhero being a Raw or SmackDown Women's Champion? The answer is no, because the gimmick's dumb. And I know people will say, well, it's Nikki Cross's gimmick. She came up with this idea. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. It's a bad idea. It's a bad gimmick. And I know WWE are obsessed with these kind of superhero gimmicks, and I know Vince McMahon wants a superhero gimmick to succeed, and I understand as well, I totally understand as well, that gimmick, the Nikki A.S.H gimmick, isn't for me. It isn't for people of my demographic and my audience, right? It's for the kids. It's for the kids in the audience. WWE's a PG company. WWE looks at the Nikki A.S.H gimmick and they say, look, merchandise, the kids love it. The action figures, all this kind of stuff, the superhero stuff. Well, there's so much marketability in all that. That's what they look at when they see Nikki A.S.H. For me, I think it has a ceiling. I think it's stupid. I know people will say, but the Hurricane succeeded. The Hurricane succeeded, Owen. So why can't Nikki A.S.H succeed? Well, I don't think at any point the Hurricane was ever going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match and become the WWE Champion. Because guess what? It was a comedy gimmick with a ceiling. And people forget this when they talk about the Hurricane and they compare him to Nikki A.S.H. The Hurricane was a comedy gimmick. When they started the Hurricane gimmick, it started off because Stone Cold Steve Austin, they were doing the invasion angle, and Shane Helms had the Green Lantern logo on his arm, and he said, what's that? And he goes, I like superheroes. So he started to call himself the Hurricane because it was a goof. It was a comedy gimmick. And at no point was the Hurricane ever going to win the World Championship. Yes, he might win the Tag Team Championship. Yes, he might do this and he might do that. But he was never going to win the World Championship. And it was always a comedy gimmick. And then eventually, when they wanted to actually have Shane Helms in a more serious role, they dropped the superhero gimmick because it has a ceiling to it. There's only so far you can go. And Nikki A.S.H isn't played up as a comedy gimmick. It's played up as a serious gimmick of, I wanted to find something deep down inside and I wanted to inspire people, so I dressed up like a superhero. If this was real life, you would say, what on earth is wrong with you? You've got one person in the match, Alexa Bliss, trying to hypnotize people, which I'm sick of that, by the way. I mean, I laughed before the event. And I said, oh, I hope she doesn't try and hypnotize and try and levitate the briefcase down. And then she tried it, by the way, which was ridiculous, absolutely ludicrous. The Nikki Cross in NXT, when she's telling Aleister Black about who attacked him, that can be Women's Champion. The Nikki Cross that was tag teaming with Alexa Bliss on the main roster, that can be Women's Champion. The Nikki Cross, almost a superhero. Why am I getting flashbacks to Otis last year? Where at the time they go, yeah, but she gets reactions. I'm telling you now, the people were happy to see Nikki Cross win because they like Nikki Cross. When she came out with that superhero stuff, nobody was reacting because they realize it's a goof. There's only so far you can go with it. Now, I'm not one of those people that's going, Liv Morgan was robbed. I think Liv Morgan was the right decision. But if Nikki Cross wasn't doing this superhero gimmick, I'd have no issue with her winning the Money in the Bank. No issue whatsoever. But this gimmick, Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, are you kidding me? No. No, the answer's no. And I know people will try and spin it and they justify it and they'll say the Hurricane, they'll say Mighty Molly and all this kind of stuff. No. The Hurricane was never the world champion. Why? Because he was the Hurricane and he dressed up as a superhero. Because it's just stupid. It's just stupid. So that was my thoughts on that. I thought the match itself was fine. The better Money in the Bank ladder match was the male one. That's a fact. But I can't see her successfully cashing it in. And if it is, how can you get behind that? How can you get behind that and take that seriously? I just don't see it. I don't see it. Next up was the Raw Tag Team Championships. We'll get to this in a second because there's quite a lot in the chat. And Mortal Clan says, I hate Liv Morgan fans. Wow. They just attacked the winner because she didn't win. Althea says, hi. Mr. Rapster says, Cena entry, oof. Vonville says, Nikki A.S.H, annoying superhero. Darthor says, like Nikki, but still she was like when she was Insanity. Irish Penguin says, personally, I thought that this was a weak show, especially for a pay-per-view. I mean, I disagree. I thought the show was strong. I thought the crowd was great, and I thought they had some excellent matches on the show. Anish says, love from India. Warren says it's ridiculous. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. If you're reeling from Money in the Bank, smash a like on the like button as well. Super chats, of course, are open. It's the best way to contribute and support the channel, and of course we'll read out your message on the air. So, Raw Tag Team Championship match, because I want to get through these matches and talk about obviously the big John Cena point that will close the show. Raw Tag Team Championships, AJ Styles and Asuka retain the Raw Tag Team Championship by defeating the Viking Raiders. This was a bit of an odd one, wasn't it? Because going into the match, the point is that the heels are AJ Styles and Asuka, and the baby faces are the Viking Raiders. You would have to have reminded the crowd that, though, because they were firmly behind AJ Styles and Asuka, and I guess the Viking Raiders were the heels in this one. They kind of had to flip it. But to be honest with you, I thought the match was... Thing is, I was going to say I think the match was better than it had any business being, but that's not necessarily true. Because look, 3 of the guys in this match, everyone knows Asuka. He's a giant guy, and he's green. And the criticism I would have in this match of Asuka is, dude, work on your selling, because some of his kind of like flailing and the kind of shaking his head and all this kind of stuff, he needs to work on that. But he's green. He's green, and historically, I mean, Asuka's like 7'3". Historically, guys that tall, it's difficult for them to work anyway, especially the believability kind of element of it. But I thought, considering you have AJ Styles, Ivar, and Eric, all great workers, I thought the match was fine. Crowd are into it. I thought it was a fun match. Asuka gets the victory by doing the Kali chokeslam bomb thing on Eric, and look, it was fun. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fine for what it was. I know that Asuka has come out on Twitter and says, anyone that says Asuka can't wrestle, they don't know what they're talking about. I would pipe down with that one, Asuka, because we're still yet to see, but it's difficult because, again, when you're 7'3", what's your psychology? You ain't doing arm drags and stuff like that, and part of the whole gimmick is when you're 7'3" is to be chopped down. He does look awkward at times, and you kind of have to build the match around him. But that's why you got AJ Styles in there. And I think WWE realized that, as you always do when you have a giant that's 7'3", if we can get this guy to a point where he can work a semi-decent match, or at least he has the sound psychology of a big man. We saw on the Broken Skull sessions, Kevin Nash is working with him. If they can find a situation where they can, get this guy up to speed, then he is money. Because even in this day and age, people that are 7'3", they're attractions and they draw, and people are interested. So if they can get this guy over to a point that he can work a semi-decent match, whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But I thought this match was a lot of fun, and I thought it was. I thought it was. No, again, I think it's unfair to say it's better than it had any business being, because I think the match was fine. And AJ Styles and Asuka retain. Next, we had the WWE Championship, and this one, I'm going to be honest with you, I know some people didn't, certainly in the arena, weren't thrilled with how it planned out. Everyone knew Bobby Lashley was winning this match. Everyone knew it was Bobby Lashley was winning this match, but it's the way they did it. Bobby Lashley defeated Kofi Kingston to remain as the WWE Champion, but put it this way, Bobby Lashley decimated Kofi Kingston. We are talking... If you held up this match and put it side by side, shot for shot, with John Cena versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2014, it's the same match. That's how it is. They booked Bobby Lashley tonight exactly like Brock Lesnar, in that Kofi Kingston got a little bit of offense in the beginning of the match, but apart from that, Bobby Lashley destroyed him. After a little bit of offense at the beginning of the match, Kofi Kingston didn't get anywhere near Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley beat the hell out of Kofi Kingston. Actually, we'll have a look how long the match actually went, because I think it went actually longer than I expected it to go. Well, it went over 7 minutes, but it was 7 minutes of Bobby Lashley destroying Kofi Kingston. He had him beat on numerous occasions. He threw him around the ring, eventually makes him pass out to the Hurt Lock. I don't know if he actually tapped out. I think he passed out to the Hurt Lock. But it makes sense. That story makes sense. And I know inside the arena, it kind of took the wind out of the crowd slightly, I think. Because I don't know if it's because they really wanted Kofi to win, but I think that's kind of naive because he was never going to win. I think sometimes you have to, whilst you can want something, you have to kind of be realistic in that sense. But look, I felt that the crowd wanted Kofi to win, and they were upset to see Kofi get no offense, I suppose. But look, it was smart. It was absolutely smart. And the story, you have to look at the story. What was the story heading into this match? Kofi Kingston's telling Bobby Lashley, you've lost your edge. You won the WWE Championship back in March, and then you got distracted. You believed your own hype. You weren't the almighty WWE Champion. You were sipping champagne and you're partying with the ladies. That's not Bobby Lashley. That's not the almighty WWE Champion. So what was the story? Bobby Lashley said it on Monday Night Raw. The BS has to end. Back to business. And tonight was an all-business Bobby Lashley. It was Brock Lesnar versus John Cena at SummerSlam 2015. That's exactly what it was. Exactly what it was. So I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was great booking. I thought Kofi made Bobby look like $1 million. My only issue is that they're trying to make Brock Lesnar, trying to make Bobby Lashley worthy of facing Goldberg, because that's what we know is going to happen. Tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw, Goldberg's returning to WWE. He's returning to Monday Night Raw, and it's going to set up Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. So tonight, obviously, they wanted to get Bobby Lashley up to speed so he's worthy of facing Goldberg, which is ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's absolutely stupid that is the case. But the only saving grace, I suppose, is that it was so similar to a Brock Lesnar match that maybe, just maybe, people are looking at it saying, well, it was very Brock Lesnar-ish. Maybe that's because they're setting out someone with Brock. I don't think so. I think it's well documented that it's going to be Bobby versus Goldberg at SummerSlam, which I have no interest in seeing. And if anything, I would love to see them repeat this match against Goldberg. If I'm Bobby Lashley and WWE, I'm saying, look, Goldberg's lost his last few matches in WWE. For the WWE Championship, lost to Drew McIntyre in January, lost to Braun Strowman, who's no longer even with the company, at WrestleMania 36 last year. How do we make Bobby Lashley defeating Goldberg effective? Because at this point, it's not just a case of Bobby Lashley beating Goldberg. That's not enough because other people have done it. How do we really get Bobby Lashley over by beating Goldberg? And my answer would be, do the same thing you did tonight. Do the exact same thing you did tonight. I know Goldberg's matches are short anyway, but I'd have Goldberg get zero offense in. I'd have Bobby Lashley absolutely destroy this old man, just completely decimate him, and then toy with him. Not just beat him in 3 minutes. I would have him absolutely decimate Goldberg at SummerSlam. And then I'd have Big E come out and cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase and say, okay, now we do a proper WWE Championship match. Then you have Big E beat Bobby Lashley, and then Big E's the WWE Champion. I still think that's the way to go. I also think that's smart, considering that Big E now can look at this and say, look, my New Day stablemate, Kofi Kingston, got absolutely destroyed by Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank. I've got to avenge that. So Big E comes to Monday Night Raw, cashes it in. That's what I would do. Whether or not that's going to be the case, I don't know. But Bobby Lashley retains the WWE Championship. We have a new Raw Women's Champion because Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley to become the Raw Women's Champion, well, WWE Women's Champion for what, the 11th time? Something like that, the 10 millionth time? However it was. This was actually a really good match. This was a really good match, and it's funny because the creative, the creative for this match, I could not stand. Their segments on Raw have been terrible. But it must be said, I thought Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley did an astounding job in this one. And the reason I say that is because when they came out, they were suffering from the bad creative that they had. Not that the crowd didn't care, but the crowd weren't interested in this match initially. They come out, and all the crowd want to see is one person. And it's not Charlotte Flair, and it's not Rhea Ripley. It's Becky Lynch. They'd heard the rumors about Becky Lynch being in Fort Worth, Texas. They heard that Becky Lynch was backstage. They saw that Becky Lynch had... Oh, God, I need to rip my ears off. They saw that Becky Lynch would tease that she was in Texas. So all they wanted to see was Becky Lynch. That's all they wanted to see. And they started to cheer it. You know, we want Becky. We want Becky. Charlotte Flair went into business for herself when she heard the chant of "We want Becky" and Becky Lynch and all that kind of stuff, because she flipped off the crowd. Charlotte Flair gave the crowd a middle finger. The screen went black. They had to censor it, and Charlotte Flair didn't care. She was giving the crowd the finger, and then I think she realized she worked with a chip on her shoulder at that point. She said, you know what, I'm going to get this crowd back, because at that point, the crowd weren't interested. The crowd had zero interest in seeing Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, because the creative sucked. of the match. They were not invested in this match. They were not invested in the feud. And then credit to Charlotte Flair, credit to Rhea Ripley, because somehow, some way, when this match ended, nobody was thinking about Becky Lynch. They were thinking about just how great this match was. And that's a credit to both of them, because that was going to be a difficult crowd to win over, especially when you haven't been working in front of crowds for 16 months. And to me, that proves why Charlotte Flair is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I know people hate to hear that. And I don't mean just male or female. I mean one of the best, because being put in that difficult situation, a lot of people would crumble. And Charlotte Flair, she thrived on it. She went, okay, you want to see Becky Lynch? By the time this match is over, you're not going to want to see her. You're going to be telling me how great my match was. And they did it. They absolutely pulled it off. They did a spot where Charlotte Flair hit a natural selection from the top rope, and Rhea Ripley was able to kick out. My one criticism of the match would be that the finish of their match at Hell in a Cell was Rhea Ripley getting disqualified. Rhea Ripley gets disqualified at Hell in a Cell. Why does she get disqualified? Because she threw the hood of the announce table into Charlotte Flair, and that's a disqualification. It was BS. That was never, ever a disqualification, but they decided to call it a disqualification. So in the closing moments of this match, you had Rhea Ripley, whose knee had been worked on by Charlotte Flair throughout the match, and obviously on Raw on Monday. Charlotte Flair traps Rhea Ripley's knee in the steel ring steps, and then just kicks him over and over and over and over and over and over again. And you're watching that, and how on earth is that not a disqualification, but the call at Hell in a Cell is? That was the one bit of logic. I looked at that and I went, that doesn't make any sense. Because if you're going to judge things by the things you judged them, by the limit you judged them at Hell in a Cell, that should definitely be a disqualification tonight. But I suppose you can look past it. The crowd didn't care. The crowd were going nuts. So after she absolutely destroys Rhea Ripley's knee, she goes into the ring, locks in the figure 4, into the figure 8. And in fairness to Rhea Ripley, they gave her a lot of time. It wasn't a case of Rhea Ripley tapping out straight away. She milked it, and eventually she tapped out. And Charlotte Flair wins the match and is the Raw Women's Champion. I know some people would be upset by it. And I know some people because they don't like Charlotte Flair. And she is involved in the championship picture too much. And maybe Rhea Ripley should have had a longer reign. I think we're leaning into Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch, I think, at SummerSlam. But Becky Lynch has to win that match. She can't lose her first match back, and that means another short title reign for Charlotte Flair, and that's how she's going to break her dad's record, I think, just by having so many short title reigns. But look, again, I think a lot of people, myself included, were very critical of the creative going into this match, which is justified. The creative sucked. Nobody knew who the babyface was heading into this match. They came out, and because of that bad creative, the crowd was all over him. The crowd are chanting for Becky Lynch. And a huge credit to Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, because they delivered one hell of a match. And by the end of the match, they weren't chanting Becky Lynch. They were chanting, "This is awesome." That ain't easy to do. That really isn't easy to do. That is tough to win a crowd background, and that's how you know you're dealing with special talent, really special talent there. So I credit them, because there was 3 matches on this show that I genuinely thought were top matches. This was one of them. It was the last 3 matches, frankly. The last 3 matches on this show were superb. I mean, they really were superb. And this was the first one that I was watching, and I was saying, man, this was a top quality match. So credit to them both. I thought it was excellent. We then had the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and we have a Mr. Money in the Bank that is none other than Big E. Now, this one was excellent. It was the best ladder match of the night by far. It blew the women's Money in the Bank ladder match out of the water. You would kind of expect it to with the talent involved. Obviously, Seth Rollins thought that he was going to be winning the Money in the Bank, and it was his aim to win the Money in the Bank, all that kind of stuff. There were so many amazing spots in this one that if I try and recite them all, I won't be able to do it justice. Kevin Owens took the damnedest bump off the top of a ladder through the ladder. It was a period of time earlier on in the match, Seth Rollins and John Morrison formed a temporary alliance, if you will, and they placed a ladder between the announce table and the apron of the ring. And at one point, Kevin Owens is climbing the ladder. Seth Rollins sneaks under him, gets him in a powerbomb position, and powerbombs Kevin Owens through the ladder. It's nuts. Think of the bumps this guy's taken over the course of the last few days. He jumped off a ladder and did an elbow drop through the table on SmackDown. He then gets powerbombed through a ladder on Sunday at Money in the Bank. Kevin Owens is so happy that fans are back, because he's going to be doing some crazy stuff. Absolute crazy stuff. It was madness. Absolute madness. Drew McIntyre seemingly at one point had the match won, and out of nowhere comes Vera and Shanky along with Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal attacks Drew McIntyre with a steel chair, smashes him several times across the back, and then Vera and Shanky take Drew McIntyre away to the back. So Drew McIntyre is going to be feuding with Jinder Mahal going forward, which, again, the feud doesn't do a lot for me, but it's the right call. Drew McIntyre has been in the WWE Championship picture too long. You could even hear it when he came out, Drew McIntyre. Not a lot, but you could hear there was a couple of boos in there. And if he'd have won tonight, there is no doubt in my mind the crowd would have turned on him. Because they've already started to turn on him. And if they'd have done that, they'd have been killing off a babyface that they desperately need right now. Drew McIntyre needs a lot of time and space away from the WWE Championship picture. He can do that by facing Jinder Mahal. He can do that by facing other people. He doesn't need to be in that spot right now where he's challenging for the WWE title. He doesn't. He's been in that spot for about a year. Yes, there were no fans there, and yes, he deserves his moment, but part of the best thing of a babyface is the chase. And maybe for him, he just needs some time out of the picture. So I'm not opposed to that at all. Closing moments of the match saw Seth Rollins looking like he was going to claim the Money in the Bank briefcase. Out of nowhere, Big E pulls Seth Rollins and hits a big ending from halfway up a ladder. It was an awesome spot. And Big E retrieves the Money in the Bank briefcase. And Big E is the Mr. Money in the Bank. Absolutely spot on. This was the right call. Absolutely, this was the right call. I think a lot of people looked at this match and said there was lots of names that could win it, but Big E, he's money. He is Mr. Money in the Bank, but he is a future world champion. There's no doubt about it. He is a future world champion. I think this gets him to Monday Night Raw. I think he should stay away from SmackDown. He's no business cashing in on the Universal Championship. He needs to stay away from Roman Reigns because if he faces Reigns, he loses. There are options now, I think, because I think whilst you could have Lashley versus Goldberg, which I think is where they're going, unfortunately, logic could say that Big E would look at this and say, wait a minute, Bobby Lashley just destroyed my New Day stablemate. Why didn't I go to Raw? Why didn't I cash in on Bobby Lashley? And then, Bobby Lashley, Big E, SummerSlam, Big E winning the WWE Championship. I'm all for it. I'm all for that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So absolutely the right call. The crowd were going crazy because they know. They know it's a big deal, and they're behind Big E, and everyone has been saying for years and years and years, this is a guy. Once he gets out of being a tag team wrestler, once he gets a bit more serious, this guy can be a world champion. And this is the first step towards doing that. So Big E, at some point, is going to be a world champion. At this point, it's guaranteed. Well, near enough, hopefully, because he's Mr. Money in the Bank. And then finally, we had our main events. Universal Championship. Roman Reigns defeats Edge in what was, really, psychologically, such a sound match. And they took their time. This match went over 30 minutes. Roman Reigns continues his set of just 30 minutes main event classics in WWE, and it was excellent. Really was excellent. Reigns dominated the majority of the opening portions of the match. Edge manages to fight back. Edge rallies. Roman goes to try and spear Edge. He goes for a barricade. Edge stops the count from the referee. Goes to the outside of the ring. Spears Roman through the barricade. Rolls him in the ring. Gets a close 2 count. We got shenanigans, which I think a lot of people expected. We got shenanigans. And the shenanigans were that Reigns goes for a Superman punch. Basically, I think, does he hit the Superman punch and it goes into and hits Edge, who then goes into Charles Robinson. The bump wasn't great. The bump, to be honest, was not great by Charles Robinson. Anyway, because of this, he goes down on the outside of the ring, and we knew that we were going to get the spot with the chair, the Chelsea Smile crossface spot. So Reigns goes outside, goes to get the chair. Snaps off the portion of the chair that you can use for the crossface, goes back in the ring, but Edge manages to fight out. He locks in the Chelsea Smile crossface, and he has it locked in. And you're thinking, right, here we go. This is going to be Edge winning the Universal Championship. Suddenly, out of the crowd, out of nowhere, comes Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins, of course, has been stating over and over and over and over again that he thinks that Edge has cost him the Universal Championship, cost him his opportunity at the Universal Championship. He's furious. He kicks Edge in the back of the head, and you're thinking, right, that's how we're going to cost him the match. So he leaves. I was thinking at the time, actually, when he did the super kick to the back of the head, I thought that's a bit weak. If Reigns now pins him or hits the spear, that's a bit weak. But they didn't. They did a really great false finish spot. So what they did, they had Rollins, as I mentioned, kick Edge in the back of the head. Roman realizes what's going on. He gets back up. He does the whole, big Roman Reigns pose, goes for the spear, but Edge hits the spear. Edge hits the spear, and everyone's going, oh my God, Edge is going to win. Referee runs out, so a little bit of delay protects Edge's finish. Little bit of a delay, 1, 2, kicks out. Somehow kicks out. Somehow, some way manages to kick out. So Edge then is now looking around thinking, man, I might actually win the match. He's setting up for another spear. As he's setting up for another spear, Seth Rollins runs back out because he's thinking, I'm guaranteeing Edge isn't going to win here. Edge knocks Seth Rollins off the apron with a big boot. Reigns hits the spear. Reigns gets the victory. And Roman Reigns retains the Universal Championship. He thought, well, to be honest, again, and that summary does not do the match justice at all. If you haven't watched it, if you're just watching this post-show reaction stream live, or you're watching it on demand, or however you're watching it, go watch the match because it's spectacular. The crowd were chanting, this is awesome. Again, it's a 30-minute classic. The last 3 matches on this show, the Raw Women's Championship match, the Money in the Bank ladder match on the men's side of thing, and the Universal Championship match, all of them I thought was just brilliant. I really absolutely did think it was fantastic. It was truly spectacular. So after the match, Seth Rollins comes back out after he's been big booted by Edge. He starts attacking Edge, and he says to Roman, you know what you owe me. The reason you're Universal Champion now is because of me. I helped you. Remember that. I helped you. Edge gets back up and starts brawling with Seth Rollins. They brawl to the back. And again, you start to think, something's going to happen here because Edge and Rollins got out of there pretty damn quickly. So that confirms that Edge and Rollins is happening for SummerSlam, which, again, we knew was happening, of course. So Edge and Rollins, they brawl to the back. John Cena, I jumped the gun there. Roman Reigns grabs the microphone and says, now you must acknowledge me. And the crowd boo, and then wouldn't you know it, John Cena. Yes, John Cena, his entrance music hits, and out comes John Cena. I'll see if I can get it up on the screen. I'll try and get the screen grab up on the screen. You have to bear with me here. I wasn't planning on putting the John Cena screen grab up on the screen, but we'll do it. We'll put the John Cena screen grab up because this will be great. Where did I put it? So John Cena comes out to the ring. Because I want to see, I want people to see the Cena comes out. There you go. We'll make it a bit smaller. There you go. Put it there. John Cena comes out to the ring. Crowd goes nuts. Crowd goes absolutely crazy. I mean, the crowd loses their ever-loving minds. Gone are the days of John Cena getting a mixed reception. Gone are the days of John Cena, people booing Cena, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. They did start chanting the whole John Cena sucks thing when he comes out with his music, but at this point it's like Kurt Angle, isn't it? It's like the Kurt Angle kind of, you suck. It's a thing of affection, a thing of pride. So Cena comes out, the place is going, I mean, batshit crazy, I think is the best way to describe it. They're losing their minds. And Roman Reigns looks absolutely furious about this. Absolutely, he's livid. He's absolutely livid by this. Cena doesn't say a word. I mean, he did to the camera, but all that kind of stuff. He's posing. He steps up to Roman Reigns, does the "you can't see me" stuff, and then that's how we go off the air. We've seen Cena celebrate. I was waiting for like Reigns to drop him or whatever, but it don't matter. It is what it is. So this officially sets it up. The rumors are true. John Cena versus Roman Reigns, SummerSlam, main event, Universal Championship. It's happening. It's happening, yes. John Cena has officially returned to WWE. He's facing Roman Reigns in the main event of SummerSlam for the Universal Championship. That crowd went insane. And again, this is the first John Cena appearance in front of a sold-out WWE crowd since, again, like February of 2020. And even then, he hadn't appeared on WWE programming for like a year. So these John Cena appearances at this point are unbelievably rare. I mean, incredibly rare. I think prior to that, when was his last WWE appearance? At the end of 2018? No, it was end of 2019. It must have been something. I forget. But again, these John Cena appearances at this point are few and far between. And look, I know people had their opinions on Cena but for me, of my generation growing up, he's my generation's Hulk Hogan. He's the megastar, he's the guy on the Mount Rushmore, and seeing him inside of the ring with Reigns once again, and of course I know they've done it in the past. I know they did the match at No Mercy in 2017. They rushed it. They rushed that. That could have been a WrestleMania main event. It should have been a WrestleMania main event. They knew, though, that Cena might not be around for WrestleMania. They knew that they had Cena. They weren't sure if they had Cena for WrestleMania. That's the following year. They had the whole Cena Undertaker stuff. They knew they wanted to do Brock versus Reigns at that following WrestleMania, so they rushed it. Even though they rushed it, the match they had at No Mercy 2017 was great. The promos that they had in the ring, of course, that infamous contract signing when they had Kurt Angle in there and the shoot promos and all this kind of stuff. That was great. So imagine what they can do truly building to a stadium show. Imagine what they can do with an even bigger John Cena and even bigger Roman Reigns. John Cena at this point, there's no conflicting, mixed reception John Cena. He's an ultimate legendary babyface. And Roman Reigns, there's no conflicting mixed, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? He's a bad guy. He's a heel now. And he's doing the best work of his career. Now, obviously, Roman Reigns is going to win at SummerSlam. There's no doubt about that he's going to win at SummerSlam. It doesn't matter, though, because this match that they're going to do, is it going to break records? I don't know. I probably doubt that. But when Cena came out tonight, man, it felt big. It felt like a real big deal, didn't it? Truly a big deal. And again, that reaction, that's special. People are going to remember that for a long time. They're going to say, when Cena came back at the end of Money in the Bank in 2021 and the reaction he got, again, if you didn't see it, Google it, YouTube it. I'm sure WWE will put it up. I'm sure it's all over social media already. That reaction that the crowd gave to John Cena was something special. Imagine that inside of a stadium. This right now is the biggest match that WWE can do. Now, obviously, the bigger match is probably Reigns versus The Rock. We don't know if they can even do that. WWE hopes they can do that. WWE wants to be able to do that. We don't know if WWE can do that. The biggest match that WWE can do right now is John Cena versus Roman Reigns. They know that. That's why they've booked that. This feels like a big deal. This feels like a massive deal, and Reigns is going to win, as I mentioned at SummerSlam. But what a moment! What a moment tonight! And look. As I mentioned, I know some people said that they questioned certain decisions on this show tonight, but to be honest with you, like I mentioned, that the final three matches on this show tonight, I thought were exceptional, really, really exceptional. That main event was slow initially, but I think Edge, for a guy again that's in his late 40s, a guy that was out of the ring for such a long period of time and has done the comeback that he's done, I'm really happy for him. And it was a real fun show. And WWE have been doing good pay-per-views for a while now. It's just the creative on their television show that's bad. But SmackDown this coming Friday, how about that for must-see? I'm assuming they will announce that John Cena will be appearing on that show. I will be assuming that they'll be announcing that John Cena will be appearing on SmackDown on Friday. They must. And we have a great inclination of where we're going for SummerSlam. Essentially, we're about a month out from SummerSlam at this point, and WWE tonight essentially showed their hand. They showed what the directions they're going in. They confirmed John Cena versus Roman Reigns, Edge versus Seth Rollins. Tomorrow night on Raw, they're going to be announcing or confirming Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg, and that's a big card. Cena versus Reigns, that's the match. It's the biggest match WWE can do right now. So that's very exciting. But look, guys, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button. If you enjoyed Money in the Bank tonight, I'm still reeling from the John Cena return. It was amazing, incredible. I'm going to have to decompress about this. Oh, another thing I did want to say before we do wrap things up is I understand that Peacock was having a load of issues tonight. Didn't obviously affect me over here in the UK when we were doing the watch-along on the stream. No issues at all. But it's just the latest problem with Peacock, isn't it? The WWE Network is as it is around the world, and it's fine, as it was rather, and it's fine. And Peacock, once again, the biggest heel of the night wasn't Roman Reigns, it was Peacock. So that is what that is there. I saw Dave Meltzer go, they should stop the show. They should stop the show. They need to stop the show. If the stream's not working for Peacock, they should stop the show. They should halt it. How dare they do it? They know this is a problem, all this kind of stuff. Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah, WWE is just going to stop Money in the Bank because Peacock stopped working. How about the rest of the world? Because I know that a lot of people watching in the United States, but I think if you add up all of the countries around the world that are watching it, probably a lot of people are watching it at the time. I thought it was nonsense, and it was down for what? 10 minutes, something like that. I know in the grand scheme of things it happens, just kind of get over it, Dave. Calm down. Anyway, we'll end it on that nice positive note. John Cena's back. Look, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or how you come across this stream today. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll